One notable difference in the report form this year is the availability of your 2025 Carnegie classifications to construct comparison groups. In this recording, I will summarize how the 2025 Carnegie classifications differ from earlier classifications and how you can access these data in a report form. So I'm going to summarize it here, but on April 24th, we're going to host and record a live webinar that goes into greater detail for a good part of an hour about the changes in the Carnegie classifications and how it impacts the NSSE report form. So you might find both of these recordings useful if this is your first time working with the new classifications. If this is your first interaction with the 2025 Carnegie classifications, I encourage you to visit the American Council on Education website for the Carnegie Group for useful details. There, the Carnegie Foundation shares the rationale, framework, and methodology for the 2025 classifications. We provide links to the ACE website in multiple places on our report form. Like with iPads, so I just want to emphasize here that, like with iPads information that we've historically shared in the form and the prior Carnegie classifications, we are simply sharing the information from these groups for your use in the form. We did not author this information, and thus the Carnegie Foundation website is going to be your best resource for information and questions about the 2025 classifications. So I mentioned that there's links in the form. So, for example, if I open up Comparison Group 1, as I displayed in an earlier recording, I showed that for this test institution, what their 2025 Carnegie classifications are. You can see that there's a link to the Carnegie website there right below it. And so if I open that up, again, the Carnegie Foundation website is very useful. They have a host of information about the new classifications, the methodology used to develop them, an FAQ. Yeah, there's an FAQ down here. There's some news releases. So that they do provide a wealth of information about the new Carnegie classifications that you can use to get yourself oriented to what we're talking about there. And I'll summarize it here as best I can. The Carnegie classifications are a system for organizing degree granting colleges and universities in the United States. Accordingly, many NSSE users have found the classifications useful in constructing comparison groups for their reports, and thus we offer it within the report form to do so. It is thus important to note that the 2025 classification is going to substantively differ from the prior 2021 and earlier classifications. The 2025 classifications shift away from the highest degree awarded towards the typical academic subject of degrees awarded and the award level of those degrees. So those two are not correlated. You'll find some very different classifications once you get into it. So it is recommended that you review that information, how it's changed before you start using it within your comparison groups. In execution, the 2021 classifications consisted of one overall basic classification, and then there were 5 advanced Carnegie classifications. That was for the prior 2021 classifications. The updated 2025 classifications have 3 primary Carnegie classifications. First, and I've scrolled down to the Carnegie website where they feature these classifications, and I also mentioned the methodology. First, the institutional classification is, I guess what you call it is the best you can get with an updated version of the historic basic classification. This is one kind of overall capturing everything classification that you can use for classifying colleges and universities. It organizes colleges and universities into groups of similar campuses based on the types of degrees they award, the field of study, and their size. Like the basic classification in prior years, we will offer your 2025 institutional classification as your default comparison for your second comparison group. The student access and earnings classification organizes colleges and universities into one of six classifications based on the types of students they enroll and how well former students are earning in the labor market as compared to their peers. So that's the second classification here. Finally, the research activity designation uh, is going to place institutions into one of three groups based on their research expenditures and research doctorates awarded. And one thing you're going to note with these three classifications is while all institutions are going to have an institutional classification, and there's very rare cases where an institution is not classified under the student access and earnings classification, you'll see that when you look at the peer table for the report from this year, that there's a lot of institutions that have a not applicable rating for the research activity designation. So it's only the Carnegie Foundation only applied that to folks who where that was applicable to all. Okay, so in addition to one other thing to note, so we're going to offer those three. So those three classifications will be available when you're in the report form for selection. And again, you can review what your for the sample institution. I could see what their classification was for those three primary classifications. In addition to these three distinct classifications, you'll also find that the report form includes institutional classifications for component divisions. So the Carnegie Foundation, when they develop the institutional classification, they have four dimensions that contribute to that overall institutional classifications, which are institutional size, award level focus, and then undergraduate academic program mix and graduate academic program mix. And so in those cases, we have that information available as well. But in that case, this is you can view this as a subset of the institutional classification. For example, the test school I'm working with here is Master's Professional Small. You can see that, of course, their institutional size is small. Their award level focus is Master's. So this is all kind of like maybe like the deconstruction of the institutional classification in case one of those dimensions that's used to develop the institutional classification is more useful than others to refine your comparison group. Okay, so where do the classifications come into play on the form? As I mentioned, if you don't customize your second core comparison group, your institutional classification for 2025 is going to be your default. And it's also going to be if I opened up my second core comparison group and clicked load the default, that's who I'm going to get. So let me do that here. So I'm going to clear out the selections. I'm going to say load the default group, which is Master's Professional Small. And it loaded that default group of all other institutions who met that Carnegie institutional class within the current or prior NSSE year. So that's one place it comes into play. And then as we did with the 2021 classifications, we also offer the individual so that if you choose based on criteria, you have places where you can select that based on criteria. So I can see that of all the 2025 institutional classifications, I can review and select on however many of these are applicable to me. So let's say, I want all the baccalaureate colleges and institutions. I would click those three in this one. But then So that's the institutional classification, but then I can also use selections for all those others I mentioned for the student access and earnings, research activity, and then all four of the institutional classifications dimensions are also offered here for your selection. And what you can do there is, if this is your first time working with these classifications, you'll note that there's a little icon to the right of each of the classifications where you can click on it for details about what the codes are for each of those. And those um, classifications are also detailed on the Carnegie website. So you can see, like, for example, I said that in the data table, the default was Master's Professional S. I can see that, okay, what does that mean? Master's Prof S that I see down here, I can see that I can click this icon for the full legend about what we're talking about with each of those codes for the classifications. One thing that will come, so that's how you can use this information within the form for your 2025 Carnegie classifications. We know that there's likely many of you that have been using the 2021 and earlier classifications to set up your comparison groups. And that you may want to continue to do so. Although because the 2021 had been phased out, we were moving to the 2025 within the form mechanics. I believe I mentioned earlier uh, recording that there's an Excel file you can download that will show you the 2021 classifications for everybody. So while it's not available within the form, if you want to see, for example, the basic classifications of the peers you've selected this year, you can click this link within under the section 3 for an Excel file that will side by side present your 2025 and 2021 classifications for your available peers, and also the other information we use in the form, including the IPEDS information about sector and undergraduate enrollment and so on and so forth. Uh, Okay, so again, just to recap, we are moving to 2025 Carnegie classifications within the form this year. They are different, substantively different from the 2021 classifications, and so accordingly, if you're going to use them for your comparison groups this year, I would recommend going to the Carnegie website. They're the experts on this. They have just an incredible amount of information on it, very useful. It'll also give you kind of like the historical perspective on why they transitioned to the new classifications and what will happen in the future as well, and when the next revision like this one is planned. Um, and in addition to this recording, we're going to be recording and hosting a webinar on this topic. And so we welcome you to attend that. The invites that we've been sending to you for the report form will have a link to that session, whether it be if you're in the current administration year, it'll be an invite to attend, or if for future years, will provide a link to the recording of that session in case you find it useful. And at the end of the day, if you have any additional questions or concerns about this or how you're classified, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to help you. So, uh, thank you for your time.